And we're back with part 3 of our conversation about Sculptor's funeral. So I just want to hit a couple more spots here in the text to do a little wrap up, and then we will be moving on, people. We'll be moving on. So just a couple things I mentioned at the bottom of what I've labeled as page 7. It is page 7. That's where the banker says that how much money the father spent on Harv, and again that reinforces the theme that the father really wanted his son to be what he needed to be to get out of town, and the father sacrificed a lot for that. He wanted the son to have what he probably could not. And here's the part where these guys who are on the doing the watch, the overnight watch, a tradition. Once the family leaves, they just kick back, and they're very disrespectful. You shouldn't speak ill of the dead. At least wait a while, right? The body's right there, and they're just gossiping about them, and their gossip is not useful gossip. Everyone chuckled. The Grand Army man rubbed his knees with a spasm of childish delight. So these are just kind of cruel. They're haters, right? They're haters. They're going to hate. Harv never was much account for anything practical, and he sure was never fond of work, began the coal and lumber dealer. I mind the last time he was home, the day he left, when the old man was out to the barn helping his hand hitch up to take Harv to the train, and Cal Moots was patching up the fence. Harv, he come out on the step and sings out in his ladylike voice, Cal Moots, please come cord my trunk." Like he couldn't carry the trunk himself, or he was too effeminate to do something so manly. So that's where Cather's somewhat maybe implying that he's gay, and sort of dabbling in stereotypes here. But the sort of these guys here, the Grand Army guy. Which means he was a Civil War vet. That's what Grand Army means, Grand Army of the Republic. That's Harv for you. I can hear him howling yet when he was a big feller in long pants, and his mother used to whale him with a rawhide in the barn for letting the cows get foundered in the cornfield when he was driving them home from the pasture. So the mother used to whip him for letting the cows get in the cornfield. Eesh. So he was abused, he was abused. Because that's not, spanking's one thing, whatever. I don't have kids myself, didn't have young kids ever. But beating a kid because he couldn't handle the cows, it's just something that didn't come naturally to him. So one more thing. Stevens tells us that, you might wonder, well, why does this guy want his body to go back to this town? Well, maybe for his father's sake, right? Maybe for his father's sake. But the letters were swimming before Stephen's eyes. Was it possible that these men did not understand that the palm on the coffin meant nothing to them? The very name of their town would have remained forever buried in the postal guide had it not been now and again mentioned in the world in connection with Harvey Merrick's. So the Stevens is like, don't they know who this is? He remembered what his master had said to him on the day of his death, after the congestion of both lungs had shut off any possibility of recovery, and the sculptor had asked his pupil to send his body home. It's not a pleasant place to be lying while the world is moving and doing and bettering. So this is Harv Merrick on his deathbed. Sand City is not a place to be lying while the rest of the world is moving, because Sand Creek is not moving. He said with a feeble smile, but it rather seems as though we ought to go back to the place we came from in the end, right? We're always products of the place we came from, no matter how we wind up. The townspeople will come in for a look at me, and after they've had their say, I shan't have much to fear from the judgment of God. The wings of victory in there, with a weak gesture toward a studio, will not shelter me. So the wings of victory, a sculpture that he is working on, a very dramatic sculpture, I'm sure quite beautiful. And this was the age of great representational sculpture in America. Okay, so I love that he knows exactly, right? He knows that where he came from. He knows exactly what's going to happen. He knows his body's going to be in that coffin. He knows these small-minded, small-town guys are going to sit around and say bad things about him and make fun of him. He knows exactly what's going to happen, and he almost wants to go back and hear it from the coffin. And I love that, though. He's, at the end, you should go back to the place where you came from. I don't know if you want to do that, but that's what he wants to do, because it is, for better or worse, we are where we came from, whether we like it or not, whether we like it or not. So it's a great story. It's about where we come from. It's about, I know some of you, maybe, probably most of you grew up in some kind of small town around here, and maybe you're itching to get out, right? Maybe you're itching to get out. Maybe you like it out there. Maybe you'll want to come back. Maybe you don't want to get out. I never wanted to get out. I like it here. So it's about, where do artists come from? They don't necessarily come from families of other artists. They come out of hard scrabble, abusive mother like this. It's about a Midwestern town. It's about small-minded, small-town people, and how they can't conceive of they can't conceive of art or being successful sculpting things. They can only conceive of success as making a little money, cheating other people out of money, right? And I really think it's about the tragic figures, the lawyer, Jim Laird. Next day, he's so upset the way they're taught. These guys are. He's upset. He's upset the way they're talking about Harvey Merrick, but he's upset that he's seeing these guys, be who they are. And he's upset with himself because he works for them. He enables them. He's their lawyer, right? He's their lawyer. Next day, Jim Laird was drunk and unable to attend the funeral services. Stevens called twice at his office, because Stevens and Laird, he likes them, but was compelled to start east without seeing him. He had a presentiment that he would hear from him again, and left his address on the lawyer's table. But if Laird found it, he never acknowledged it. The thing in him that Harvey Merrick had loved must have gone underground with Harvey Merrick's coffin. For it never spoke again, and Jim got the cold he died of driving across the Colorado mountains to defend one of Phelps' sons who'd got to trouble out there by cutting government timber. So Laird dies going out to defend Phelps's no good son. So 1905, trains, horses, it's that just before cars, what some people call the modern age. And it's a nice glimpse, maybe not so nice glimpse into that world. But it's Cather's musings on where artists come from, our relationship with our past, small town life. It's all in there, and it's really good. I hope you enjoyed that. I enjoyed that very much. I missed that story. And I was sad when it left the Norton Anthology, and I'm glad I had the thought to sneak it back in.